And sometimes the most sad ways, it'll remind you that rest is important. And unfortunately, that's what happened with the second, third pregnancy, but the second miscarriage was that, again, one was physical strain. And then this time it's, mental strain. And it's amazing what you can learn about your body, and how, your mind can affect your physical being. And then the vice versa is true also.
Hello everybody, this is Brittney and Byron, and you're listening to Dirty Laundry with B&B, a podcast about real, relatable relationships.
Transparency at its finest, we air it out and clear it up, offering couples and those seeking healthy relationships a safe, inclusive space to open the vents and find resolve.
Hello, Dirty Laundry listeners.
What's up, people?
I hope everyone's having a great week. And hey, it's Black History Month. Happy Black History Month,
Happy
first
Black
and
History
foremost.
Month. Hey,
okay?
Happy Black History Month.
To you as well. Yeah, we can't forget that. And our good Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. Y'all know we big fans. So there's that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
A lot of good news happening.
Yeah, a lot of good news. It's been a crazy week, but a lot of good news, and life is lifing.
Yeah. And so with life is lifing, sometimes we deal with a lot of trauma in life sometimes, and some other times grief. And so today we wanted to talk about some of those times that we've experienced in our life. And one of those is in our journey of having children and how challenging that became. So we start this episode real high about all the good stuff, but then we're going to hop into, just kind of some of the struggles that we experienced and endured.
Yeah. And this is really our first time talking about it publicly. I do want to go ahead and say, this may be a trigger warning, this conversation for some of you. So I just want to preface that with that piece, because we don't really talk about this. And actually, there's some of our family doesn't even know this. I think it was something we just didn't talk about.
Yeah.
And now that we're far removed from that chapter in our life, I think we're now at a point where we can comfortably talk about it.
Yeah. So we're typically pretty optimistic, and we try to find the silver lining in everything that we deal with. So it was difficult for us during that time for us to grieve in a healthy way, and then also discuss what we're going through, because we like to bring the light, into other people's lives. So for us, it took us a little bit of time to get to this point, but I'm sure if other people have, a bit of a expedited, path to get to where they're comfortable to talk about those types of things in their life.
Yeah. And like you said, we had a lot going on, a lot of more trauma and things, because when Byron and I decided to start a family, we had actually been married by the time we had our oldest, I think we've been married almost 4 years before we had children. And so, that was a very exciting moment for us. We had made the decision, we're going to bring a baby into this world, hopefully, God willing. And, that's an exciting moment in any marriage and relationship.
I like how you had said that we made the decision to start having children. And I thought that was one of the cornerstones of our relationship. When we got engaged and we said we wanted to get married, we said that we wanted to wait to have children, because we thought it was important that you and me explore our marriage together before we introduce a child into our home. Yeah. So I thought that was a great opportunity for us, and God, allowed us to have a little bit of time learning each other and experiencing life with each other. So that was outstanding. But to your point, when we finally decided to have children, it was a bit of a process.
Yeah. So whenever, Byron and I decided to have children, we had already went to college. We had joined the military. We had done so much traveling and fun stuff together. We made this decision. And it's one of those things that you never know it's going to be your issue in your marriage until it is. It's one of those things you just assume that it's going to happen really quickly. And for me personally, and probably Byron too, all of our siblings were able to have children really quickly with no issues. And it was really discouraging at first, because we were just wow, we had waited so long. We're so excited. And it's man, why not us? Why can't this just be easy for us? You know?
Man, a lot of thoughts came to my mind just then, but I would like to say that a lot of those feelings and thoughts and conversations we had came out of expectations, because in life, especially when it comes to things as important as having a child or bringing life into the world, we always have this expectation that everything's going to go smoothly. But I feel like we were faced with that adversity because it brought us, it was meant to bring us back present and being able to enjoy the process, as opposed to like, here's this step, then here's this step, and then here's this step. It slowed us down a bit. So if you could, can you just talk about like that process and how it worked? Not necessarily the process leading up to it, because we can talk about that. That's a whole nother. That was a fun process too. But once we found out that we were pregnant, let's walk through that.
Yeah. So we actually got pregnant fairly quickly. I was one of those that was on like birth control forever. And then not just for like not getting pregnant reasons, but just like health reasons wise. But I still never thought it would affect us. We actually got pregnant. I came off birth control and I was pregnant within 4 months. And it was really quickly. It was really quick, in my opinion. And back then, you know, even still, we're really big into fitness and working out. And we had went on this hike, and it was like was it an 8-mile hike?
Yes, it was 8 miles of 4 out and 4 back.
Yeah. So it was a really big hike, and like we were out up in the mountains and back down or whatever. And I didn't actually know I was pregnant.
Were we in Muir Woods? Is that where the hike was?
It might have been. I think we were in Muir Woods. We were out in California, and I just started having these like excruciating pains, and I'm like, something is not right. And sure enough, you know, come to find out I was pregnant, but they weren't exactly sure if I was miscarriaging or not at that time. And then, you know, it was just a few days later where we discovered that. And I mean, obviously, we were extremely disappointed and sad. We're like, wow, is this going to be, and, you know, like, not even just being sad, like the emotional toll that it takes on your body. I think a lot of people don't understand that, like having to get your blood drawn every couple of days until your level comes down, having to take that, like for me, I had to take hormone, you know, supplements and things like that. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And it was hard on us too, because, you know, we were young and, you know, it was just a lot.
Yeah. And then I think sometimes we have this thought that only the woman goes through that pain and that suffering and that grief. But I will tell you that I was torn up, not only because I wanted to have a child, but mostly because of how you felt and what you were going through. And I felt like I was helpless, like there was nothing I can do to change it. Then also there was like a little bit of regret. I always tell people I don't live in regret, but that moment I was like, why did we even go on the hike?
Exactly.
Like I
blaming.
Yes, I was blaming myself. Like, why didn't I, as the man, say, hey, listen, maybe we should not do this for the sake of, you know, our unborn child. Let's keep it safe. Let's not do that. You know, let's take care of our bodies. I felt so bad, you know, about that situation. Yeah. But yeah, it was, the hard time for me. I definitely felt like I was helpless in that time frame.
And I think people tend to do that, right? They take this blame game. Like maybe I shouldn't have went and worked out. Maybe I shouldn't have ran, because I know for me, I was really scared after that. I was like, I'm not doing anything. Yeah. Like I'm just going to sit here. And we all know that studies show women should be able to maintain their exact same workouts that they were doing before. But I was just terrified. But on the bright side, we had a rainbow baby, which, you know, you guys know that's the baby that happens right after a miscarriage. Within like 30 days, we were pregnant again. And so that was a blessing, but I was terrified. It was terrifying the whole time. There was no like, I actually remember like vividly, I don't know if you remember like how I just like pretty much like walked out of the bathroom and was like, I'm pregnant again, but I don't know if it's gonna like be a thing. Like I didn't, you know, I wasn't like excited.
Right.
Like,
and the first time, like you surprised me with the pregnancy test and it was this big thing, jump up and down, all excited, doing cartwheels in the house. And then that time we were like, you know, and it's kind of, that's another thing too, like we don't talk about how it kind of strips your excitement away, you know, and I guess it goes back to like being present and respecting the process. But at the same time, you want to be excited. I think even that time we decided not to tell anyone that we were pregnant until after the first trimester. Right. I think the first time we told people like pretty quickly, but yeah, we waited, you know, until we were sure that the baby was going to take and that we were going to be able to have a baby.
Right.
But yes, I think that was part of the process, or respecting the process also, because at that moment, it kind of stripped away the excitement from the second pregnancy.
Yeah. And I think you do a lot of blaming, you know, and you like, I've prayed for this for so long. Like, you almost feels like you deserve this, but it's just not that easy for everyone. And actually, come to find out, it's not that easy for many people. Many couples go through this, and we are not unique by all means. And at the end of the day, we were blessed to actually have 2 children. So, that's a win. But it's a real thing for people to blame themselves. And it took many years for me to realize like it wouldn't have mattered if I went on an 8-mile hike or not. Whatever was going to happen was going to happen.
Right.
And so, yes, that was very hard. But then, fast forward.
You have Jude.
We have our first little amazing child.
Yeah.
And we decide we are going to try for another one. And it was a really, really difficult time in our lives. My father was dying of cancer. And we had just decided right before like any of that, we were going to try to have another child. And it was like the process just started all over again,
Yeah, we dealt with a lot of loss in our lives during that time. And we was dealing with different moves based on, military lifestyle. Matter of fact, I think I was heading out the door. When Jude was really young, I was heading out the door again. So, yeah, a lot of different changes happening all at once. And, it doesn't matter how much you feel like you can overcome some of those battles. Your body will tell you that you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And sometimes the most sad ways, it'll remind you that rest is important. And unfortunately, that's what happened with the second third pregnancy, but the second miscarriage was that, again, one was physical strain, and then this time it's, mental strain. And it's amazing what you can learn about your body, and how your mind and your physical your mind can affect your physical being. And then the vice versa is true also. And so I think that we dealt with a lot of that.
We did. And I think, like as far as like our marriage goes, it was just a really hard time of trying to get through all of the emotions and have a toddler at home. Like we had full-time careers. We had a toddler. We were flying back and forth to see my father and spending a lot of money to fly. And, it was a lot of strain to even try to probably bring a child into the world. But that's what we wanted. And that's what we had, for our family wanted. And I think the second time we had a miscarriage, I was in the hospital in the Air Force, and I started feeling the exact same symptoms. And I was like, oh gosh, please no. And I remember I kept calling you. Byron was working out with his unit, so he didn't have his phone or anything on him. And luckily I had the doctor, the OBGYN, she knew me like on a personal level. We worked together, and she had given me her phone number. And she was like, you can call me for anything. And so my coworker didn't ask any questions. She picked up the phone, called the doctor, and she was like, Brittney, meet me in my office at 7:30, And so it was, I think the second time it was even worse, because I think it was like, damn, is this going to happen every single time? Like, is it always going to be this hard? And emotionally, Byron wasn't there. He was trying to hurry. As soon as he got the phone call, finally, he was trying to rush up there, but the majority of the process had already taken place.
Yeah. And so again, another moment where it's like, okay, what can I do? And why wasn't I available when my wife needed me at the most dire moment? And again, more blaming.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what can I do to make sure that this doesn't happen? Again, helpless.
Yeah.
And so I just felt so bad again for you during that moment. And yeah, it's just so hard. I don't even have the words to explain the emotions that I felt during that moment. And I just wish that no one had to go through it. But again, it's just a part of life.
It is.
And so, yeah, that was hard.
Helpless is a perfect word. I'm sure many men feel very helpless in the process because it's not their body, but they feel that attachment for their spouse and that child.
Yeah, and I'm a fixer. So you give me a problem, I'm gonna do my best to find the solution to the problem. And I had zero solution. I had nothing. I didn't have the tools, the mental, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual tools necessary to get us through that time. It was just us winging it. And again, we're not the type to go and be pessimists and tell everybody about what's negatively happening in our lives. So we weren't calling up everybody and, asking for advice, asking for guidance. It was just us praying and just hoping that we can get through that time. And then also we had the fetus tested.
Yeah.
Because that new technology was then offered at that moment. So they provided us with some testing, and we found out the baby was a girl, and that just brought even more struggle to us. And so how would you say that affected our relationship, if it did at all?
I think it affected us, but I think it made us stronger. I think we really, in that moment, were leaning on each other. And I don't think people realize, because we did live far away from our family, and we didn't share with a lot of people what we were going through, how much that brought us together and made us stronger. Yeah. I think we really leaned on each other. We took the time we needed. We stayed home. We did whatever we had to do to get through it emotionally. I think that there's probably something wrong with me, because I'm just a weird griever. I'm let me cry, and then we move on. And I don't know if that's healthy or if that's from just growing up. But then it will be 4 years later, and then I'm bawling my eyes out, and I'm I don't know, I never dealt with that when I should have. So I feel like it made us closer. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think that it affected us in the bedroom also. I think that we were a little bit more
precise.
So, all right. So before we decided to have children, our sex life was very active, but then also it wasn't as passionate. I think that once we decided to have children, like you said, it was very much scheduled and organized, because we were trying to make sure we had children, and we wanted to make sure that we were, that you were ovulating, and it was a process. Was it stressful? Yes. Okay.
We can't be alone in this.
But once we had the miscarriage, for me, I felt like it made me want to be more passionate in the bedroom. I felt like I wanted to slow down and experience and I'm trying to think of a PC word.
Yeah, tell me the word.
I think that I wanted to be more romantic, and you know what I mean? I wanted to just be, dim lights and slow. And I just felt like that was more important. I think that having gone through those times made me think about the importance of intimacy.
Yeah.
And how, I don't even know the word for it. Just, it is the pinnacle. It can be the pinnacle of your relationship. That is the strongest way, physical way, to show your partner that you love them. And then to have the child, that is just even more powerful.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is. It's an amazing thing. And so it made me okay, not take this any times that we have that encounter for granted.
Yeah. And there's a part of us too, I think, that we're a little bit scared. Once I was pregnant, then we're I don't want to do anything that's going to disrupt this womb, You
were like that.
You weren't. Well, that's what I was thinking. I'm listen, we need to be careful.
Yeah,
everything for me was careful. We can't
do it like that. We got to do it like this. Be careful if you were out. I'm come on now. But you know what was weird? What was really weird is that when you were pregnant, so let's say our fourth pregnancy, right? Okay. So after the second miscarriage, so the third time we were pregnant, the fourth time we were pregnant, right? So I felt like you were hot to me. It was so weird. I don't know if it was
pregnancy hormones.
The hormones. Yes, it had to been, because I was yo, and it was you were so get off of me, Byron.
Tired.
I don't know what it was. So yeah. I'm nervous now, but yeah, uncomfortable. Yeah. But that's just what it was.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot, and then we were going through a lot. So then after we had that second miscarriage, I think, like I said, I think that one affected us more than the first.
Yeah.
And then whenever I found that I was pregnant, right with Jonah, our youngest, we were actually here in Tampa visiting my sister, and I was thinking, there's no way I'm going to be pregnant. The doctor said she's going to do some blood work. She said, just go on vacation, for the holiday. And the doctor called, and she had me on all this hormone mess, y'all. I was just all over the place. I couldn't stay awake. Do you remember? I would take the hormones, and I'd be I couldn't, physically could not stay awake.
You'd be falling asleep without the hormone medicine.
So I didn't need any extra. But she called and said we were pregnant, and we were we're not telling a soul. We carried on through the holidays. I think everyone kind of had an idea, because everyone's Brittney, you're not drinking?
Yeah.
I remember your sister was Brittany's not drinking.
That. Yeah. Right.
I'm not
Which
an alcoholic.
was kind of a problem, right?
Exactly. I'm a little offended right now.
That. Yeah.
But
I just got reminded too. Remember the first time we were pregnant? So we had a miscarriage. We didn't tell anyone. And then we got a letter in the mail from your sister saying that she was pregnant. Do you remember that?
Yeah. And we were actually confused.
Yeah.
We were like, did someone tell her we were pregnant?
Right. We hadn't told anyone. And she didn't tell us either. Like, that was the way that she told us that she was pregnant, was through a letter in the mail, which is insane that we found out that way right after we had found out we had a miscarriage. So that just added like even more fuel to the fire of upsetness, if that's even a word.
Well, and you tend to be upset at everyone else in that moment, and it's no one else's fault, right? It's not anyone's fault, but it's just because other people are able to get pregnant easily doesn't, it's unfair for you to not be happy for them or whatever. Of course. But in the moment, it is discouraging. It's like, man, that's really discouraging because here I am going through a miscarriage. Yeah. So,
were there things that we did to like improve our chances of keeping a child after we dealt with?
Oh, I took all those hormones.
Just the hormones.
We did a lot of blood work, and then you had to do some testing to make sure it wasn't you, but it wasn't you.
Potency. Remember, that was a joke, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Byron kept saying, like, he has no issues. He's got me pregnant, 4 times in a row. Like, he's like, we're good over here. But yeah, it was mostly me. And so, it was actually, there was a lot going on, but he deployed and he came, and Jonah was like 3 weeks old when he left. And I remember saying, if we're going to do this again, like if we're going to have a third child, when you get back from deployment, Jonah will be 6 months, we're going to have a child right then. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I was like, otherwise we're not doing this anymore. We're done. Because I couldn't take the toll anymore. It was so much. And I had been doing it for 3.5 years, of like medicines and miscarriage. It was a lot.
And the second pregnancy was so smooth. Like the whole process of Jonah coming into the world was like the smoothest. And I felt like at that moment we were like, hell yeah, we could do this again. But I didn't want to experience that anymore. And I didn't want to experience that for you. Like when Brittney and I decided to get married and we're discussing children for the first time, I remember saying I wanted 5 kids. And then we had one. I said, okay, I'm good with one. But then we were like, okay, we should have a girl. We tried that, had the miscarriage, and then Jonah came. And then, like you said, came back home from deployment. And then Jonah was 6 months. Well, he's about 7 months when I came back. And we found out very, very quickly that maybe another child is not the best idea.
Yeah, we had
because
2 boys.
They are just wild. I can't imagine. So if God said, yes, you will have a girl your third time for sure, I'd be like, okay, yeah, let's do it. But 3 boys, it's not guaranteed. So I'm like, okay, yeah, this is probably, I'm good with 2.
Yeah. And there are so many ways now, and we are so blessed to be able to, there's adoption and there's IVF and there's surrogacy. There's so many ways to be a parent, but you don't physically necessarily have to push out a child. And like, that is a blessing, you know, that's not going anywhere. And I feel like that gives hope, because I know we talked about adoption many times, and
still are sometimes.
Yeah, that's not off the table. And I just think that's a wonderful option, because you can still be parents even if you didn't physically, have them. And I think for me, that was a positive piece that kept me going. Like, well, just because I can't. And we know a lot of people that have had struggles having children. And, everybody's journey is unique. Everyone handles it differently. But I just say, if you can keep this strong through the process, like, you'll get through it. You'll get to the other side. It may not look the way you pictured it, may not be an easy road, but you'll get to the other side.
Yeah. And then from me, I would say, especially for the man in the relationship, or the other that is not pregnant in the relationship, that patience is absolutely key, and grace, removing the blame from anyone. I'm not going to assign blame to you or to me. It's just a part of the process. And we're blessed to know that we're capable. Unfortunately, this didn't work out in our favor, but we're going to keep trying. And I love the fact that we were able to continue to grow with one another. I think that having gone through that challenge made us stronger and made us understand each other a little bit more. I think that we communicated very well through that process. And you're right. I think that the way that we grieve is different. I tend to internalize mine and then you'll externalize yours, but it's very quick and then you're done. So I would say also to appreciate the grieving phase too. That is a necessary part of the process, because if you don't grieve, there might be times later on in life where it'll pop up at a time where you don't need it to.
Exactly.
So it's important to deal with those emotions and really be okay with going through that part in your life and then move forward.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Give grace, though. I feel like you do a really good job of that. I feel like you're always
Really?
been like the rock. Like you always hold it down. So yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
babe.
hopefully anybody that's going through, any infertility issues, they have somebody strong that can, because I think, I don't know, I'm obviously not a man, but I can imagine, like you said, it feels very helpless and very hard because obviously you want this too, and then there's nothing you can do. Like,
Yeah.
not that there's anything I can do either, but
Sure.
I'm sure you just feel like, here, very honest and open, like here I am in the bathroom for hours dealing with whatever I'm dealing with. And you're just like, what can you do? There's
Yeah.
nothing you can do because you're not physically going through it.
Right.
And I think that makes it seem very dark, but if you have somebody with you, you don't feel as alone. But yeah, we're like very far removed from this, and it still is hard to talk about because
Yeah.
it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
And, both of our children are rainbow babies.
Yeah.
So both of them are right after. And I think we were just like, hey, God gave us two. We are so beyond blessed.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually started to get upset when people would then ask me after we had two, are we going to have another one?
Yeah, it's awkward because especially people that don't necessarily know you on a personal level would ask you that question, like coworkers and what have you. But people are inquisitive, they're curious. They're going to ask questions like that. I think it was just a sensitive topic for us at the time.
Yeah.
So maybe we come off a little bit brash, but I think that it was just a part of the process. It was just what we were going through at that moment. But if someone were to ask us right now, now that we're a little bit more mature,
right.
Yeah, of course. And we're not going to tell you, the answer is no. And I think we've we've mastered that now. You know what I mean? But I mean,
we always say that shop is closed.
That
now.
shop is closed. That shop is closed.
I mean, we have a 12-year-old. We don't intend on having any more children. But I do want to say as advice to young couples and just anybody, if you're older, don't ask people, especially after they get married or just ever, when's your next kid? When are you going to have kids? Because you don't know. Maybe they don't want kids.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't. Maybe the question should be, do you guys want to have children? Versus when's the next one? Because you don't know anyone's journey and what they've gone through. And I know for us, we weren't gawking around telling everybody, well, we're not having more kids because we keep having miscarriages. Like we didn't do that.
Yeah.
And they didn't know. And I remember like my grandma being very like, you guys need to have more, you need to be more, put more kids in the world. And I'm like, you have no idea what we've had to go through to get just the two we have. So.
Right. I took it as a compliment. Like, okay, yeah, maybe she thinks we should put more, children in the world.
You would.
I did. I just took it as a compliment, but I get what you're saying. I do. Yeah. It's just hard because you just don't know. I think that is a natural question that you ask someone, is especially if you have 3 or 4 kids and someone has one. Well, do you plan to have any more children? But yeah, I do think it's important that you take what could have happened into account before you ask questions like that. It's just hard. You just never know.
So some people don't even want children though. So
yeah, that's a fact.
That's they don't want children, and that's their choice, and they have that choice.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
You just have to be careful. It's a sensitive subject, and we really wanted to share our story because 1, we've never shared it, and 2, we know there's a lot of other people that can probably relate to that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. I know there's others out there that have their own story of trying to start a family or, start their infertility process, however that looks. And like Byron said, you're probably out here scheduling your escapades and whatnot.
Hey.
I know we were, but just try to find the joy in it and don't get so caught up in, the result of what's going to happen, because what's going to happen is what's going to happen. And I think God made women really, really tough.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we are able to have the babies. And I feel like honored to have had 2 children and to have been strong enough to go through what I went through.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you're tough enough to, handle it, of course.
Well, God just made us very, very tough so that we can deal with all of that when you're going through that process. Because golly, you talk about ups and downs.
You survived.
I did. I'm here. I made it.
That's right. We're on the other side.
Just part of me, though. I'm not the same, but I made it through.
Not part of you,
Yeah,
though.
part of me made it. Part of me. I left the rest back there.
Oh, yeah. Definitely a maturing, journey for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're just full-blown parents. So
what would you say before we get out of here is like the lesson learned? Is there a lesson that you learned through that journey? Like, what's the silver lining having experienced those?
The silver lining is that you and I still had each other at the end of the day. The person that I chose to marry, the person I chose to start a family with and marry and be my husband, we're still here. We're still the foundation. So no matter what we went through, I knew if we never had children, we'd be okay.
Yeah, you took mine.
You were going to say that?
Yeah, I think for me, the silver lining is that regardless of what happens, even if it's something as difficult as having a child, as long as our bond is strong and we continue to communicate our values and we keep focusing on the same goals, that we're going to be fine, that we'll be able to make it through times like that. And I think that was the true lesson learned, that we can make it through anything. If you can make it through the loss of a life that came out of you,
that you created together,
then you can get through anything.
It's facts.
And that's what I learned. And it's a blessing. It really is a blessing in disguise. And that disguise ain't just like the glasses with the mustache. It's like they looking like your cousin. You like, okay, who is that? They got cloned.
Where's the blessing?
That's a disguise, but we made it through.
Yeah, we did.
Sure.
So hopefully this doesn't make anyone too discouraged, but let you know you're not alone. There's plenty of people out here going through the exact same stuff.
Yeah.
We are not unique or any different than many others that we know.
Yeah. Enjoy the journey. I mean, the journey of having a child is a blessing in itself. So just have fun with it and be encouraged and be optimistic, but do understand that things happen. And if they do, you're going to be ready for it as long as you and your partner are strong and you guys are in sync with one another. So just be happy about it. Okay, It's just fine. This is our experience, and everyone's experiences are different, but we're just going through this journey together of just retroactively learning through some of the things that we had gone through in the past. And it's really been enlightening for us. It really has been.
For sure. And I'm glad that I was able to talk about it. I wasn't sure how we were going to go about this episode. So I thank you all for listening to our story.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, listen, and if y'all have questions or comments about specific questions or comments about our infertility and our pregnancy journey, please let us know in the comments below. You can hit us up on YouTube at Real Relatable Wilsons. You can hit us up at Dirty Laundry B&B on our podcast and on Instagram with Real Relatable Wilsons. Just check us out at any time. Without that, you got anything else?
No, most of our episodes aren't this serious. So, this one time, we had to bring you in a real world scenario here.
That's it. Without further ado, y'all, be blessed, be you, just be. We out. I'm blessed to be me. I'm so blessed to be. Blessed to be me.